Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and today I have a bunch of things I want to talk about. One thing I want to talk about in a moment is nasty people at my local quilt store, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But just to let you know what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about a trip we made to a quilt store that I've ordered from online before but have never actually physically been in the store. And I'm going to talk about some new project ideas that I have and some things that I picked up for these, how I'm organizing all of my Christmas embroidery files. I'm going to talk about some notions, my fears about ruler foot quilting, and I'm going to ask you a question about Christmas gift giving and see how you feel about some of these things, and how to use a pool noodle to layer a quilt. And I'm going to talk about the difference between brands of pre-wound bobbins, two brands in particular that I have experience with. So a lot to talk about, so let's get right into things. And well, actually, just before I do, I want to thank all of you who have been tuning in on regularly. I'm a very small YouTube channel, I will admit that. I have my weekly vlog on Bland Designs. I have Stephen and Walter Live that we do every week on Sunday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, I have the Idiot Quilter. And lately, I have been averaging about one new Idiot Quilter a week, which is great. I really enjoy doing the Idiot Quilter. Out of the three, I think this is the one that, well, I enjoy doing them all. But I think this one I get into a little bit more because, of course, you know, quilting is my latest passion. But I do want to thank those of you who have reached out to me, asked me some questions, and I try to answer any questions or reply to any comments that are made here. Now, I am very small. I'm not complaining about that, but I've been doing YouTube videos for quite a few years now, and I'm still under 4,000 subscribers in total. I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong because I watch some of these upstarts that happen, and I watch you know, a lot of guys that do this kind of YouTube programming, and you know, I was watching one this morning while I was on the treadmill, and they only started up a couple of months ago and they're already over like 5,000 subscribers. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I just have a very select group of people. And you know, that's okay. Quantity or quality, I almost slipped there. Quality is always better than quantity. So, but I'm not sure what it is that I'm not doing right. So I'm going to open it up here. If you've got some suggestions that you would think would pull in more subscribers, maybe my content's just not interesting enough. I don't know. But anyways, I like doing them, and that's all that matters. I don't do this for a livelihood. As you know, my site is absolutely free. I don't have a Patreon. I don't do super chats, all that kind of stuff. And I also don't beg for subscribers. And I notice that happens on a lot of channels, and maybe that's why they get more. But I'm not begging for it. If you want to be here, you want to be here. Simple as that, I guess. Okay. Moving on. Didn't intend to talk too much about that. Let's talk about nasty people. Okay, what do I mean by nasty people? Well, you know, if you have a favorite quilt store, or any store for that idea, that you like to go to and support, and I'm talking not about Walmart and Target, all the big chains out there, I'm talking about your local mom and pop kind of stores. If you have some that you like and you go to frequently, that's great. And during COVID, I'm sure you've been trying to support them because it's a tough go for them right now. And you know, my favorite quilting store is Ultimate Sewing here in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, where I live. And I have sung their praises many times over. And I'm being genuine. Everything I say on all of my channels, I'm being genuine. I'm not being sponsored by anybody. I'm not making any money from anybody for any of this, that kind of thing. So I am free to express my opinion. And if I tell you something is the way that it is, the way I found it, I mean it. And with Ultimate Sewing, and I have said this many times before, they are excellent. I have had nothing but excellent service from them and support since I got into quilting a couple of years ago. Excuse me, because I clear my throat. But, you know, I am not unique in this with their customer base because they treat all of their customers that way. And every customer feels special in there because of the way that they handle them. I have to take a drink. I've got something in my throat. Anyways, so every person that comes into that store is welcomed. The staff are all very knowledgeable, very helpful. They don't try to force products down your throat. They don't try to give you the brush off. They treat every customer as unique and special. And this is why I found it shocking when I heard what I'm about to tell you now. On the weekend, Walter and I popped over to Ultimate Sewing. Walter needed some pre-wound bobbins. And that's all he needed. And I didn't need anything at all, so I stayed out in the car as he went in because they do it by appointment, but they will allow walk-ins as long as they don't have more than their quota of people in the store. And then if they do, if they're at their limit, then they simply tell you, you know, do you mind waiting a few minutes until some people are finished and come out? So Walter went to the door, and there was only one other lady in the store. And so they said, sure, come on in. And Walter says, well, I'm going to be really quick. Like, we don't like to, I mean, I love to hang around Ultimate Sewing. It's just that kind of place, you know, where you love to be there. The ladies in there, I consider pretty much more than just staff. I consider them friends, almost family in many ways. So in normal times, I would love to hang around, look at fabrics, and chat with the ladies in there if they weren't too busy. But right now with COVID, you have to go in and get out. And we respect that. And we do that because we know there's other people waiting to get in. So we know what we want when we walk in the store. Walter just needed pre-wound bobbins, 2 packages, knew where they were, grabbed them, got in, and was getting out. But while he was in there, one of the other staff members was in the classroom part of the building, which is sort of a separate area, separate room. And she was working on something. She was the only one in the room, and she had her mask off. And Walter made a joke and says, ooh, or no, she made a joke to Walter. She says, oh, you caught me with my mask off. And she immediately pulled it up and put it back over. Now, Walter was well more than 6 feet, 2 meters away from her. And he was wearing his mask, of course. So no problem. And she says, don't report me. And Walter says, I would never do that. He says, why? If you had a problem with that? And she says, actually, we have. I guess there have been some customers that have come into that store and have filed a formal complaint with the powers that be that the store staff and the owner were not following the COVID protocols and restrictions. Absolutely not true. Every time we've been in that store, they have been following those to the T. The staff all have on masks. They have hand sanitizer at the door. They direct you to it. They only allow so many people in. You have to phone to make an appointment. You're expected to wear a mask. I think I said that already. Yeah, they're following all the rules. Okay? So why would somebody coming in the store want to report them? Not only that, but this is extremely hurtful because, as I said, this is a local mom and pop store. And they know everybody. The staff knows everybody that comes into the store pretty much. So these are people that are not one-offs that came into the store that are reporting this. These are regular customers. Why would you bite the hand that feeds you? Because that's what it is. Why would you stick a knife into the back of these people who have bent over backwards to help you? I don't understand that at all. I think that is nasty. What do these people putting in this report have to gain? And of course, the powers that be flock right down onto the mom and pop stores. But do you see them coming into places like Walmart or Home Depot? We were in the Home Depot on the weekend as well. The staff in there, many of them were walking around wearing their mask down below their nose or down here on their chin. There's nobody standing at the door at Home Depot, you know, making sure you use hand sanitizer or counting the number of people in the store. Yes, mind you, it's much, much bigger than Ultimate Sewing, but nevertheless, there's nobody there policing it. Are people complaining about them? And if they do the authorities flock down on them? I don't think so. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. But they go in and pick on those poor little mom and pop stores that really need the traffic. But more than anything that gets my goat is the fickleness of some people. They got excellent service from Ultimate Sewing, and then this is how they treat them. It just makes my blood boil. And I would dearly love to know who those people are, because I'd love to just slap their faces. I really would. But, you know, this is a sign of our times. I don't know. I just don't understand what anybody has to gain by doing that. Anyways, I had to get that off my chest, because I feel offended by the fact people did this, because as I said, that store is like a second home to me in many ways. And Shirley and her staff have always been supportive of me. And, you know, and that's kind of a rarity too, because we're men in a woman's world, basically, or what's been traditionally thought of as woman's world. And, you know, right from the very first day I walked into that store, they did not treat me like an alien. I have been in stores that are traditionally more women geared, and I have been treated like a piranha. Like, what are you doing in here? What would you possibly want to do in here? I've had that in the crafting community. That may be changing, but when I first got into scrapbooking, I would be treated like, oh, do you know where you are? Yes, I do. Are you trying to pick out something for your wife, for your girlfriend? No, I'm not. Well, are you looking for anything particular? No, I'm just looking around and seeing what there's here to buy. Oh, do you scrapbook? Yes, I do. Oh, but then cash talks, because when I start putting a pile of things on their counter and they're going ka-ching, 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 suddenly I'm welcome. But I have never had that happen to me at Ultimate Sewing. Never. And to be honest, most quilt stores I've been to have never ever treated me that way either. There's one that's in our area, not far from us. They're a little cold and a little snotty. But they're the only one I've ever had. And it's really not, they again, as soon as I open up my wallet, I'm their best friend. Kind of a deal. But at Ultimate Sewing, it didn't matter what my sex was. I got treated as a special person. And they do that with all their customers. So these people who are complaining about them or bitching about them, I don't get. And I'm sure Shirley and the staff feel personally offended by that. I can't see how they wouldn't. And you want to know something? They are rightly so feeling that kind of thing. Okay, off my soapbox. Let's move on to a quilt store that I went to for the first time. Walter and I did last week. Again, when I tell you we go to these places, we are strictly adhering to COVID restrictions. And the places we're going to are also doing that. If they weren't, we wouldn't go. Okay? So I just want you to know that. So we went to one called the Quilt Store in a town called Newmarket, which is about 50 minutes away from us or so. And I've ordered from them online, and you've heard me talk about them, thequiltstore.ca. Prices aren't bad. Selection's pretty good. Their service is absolutely excellent. Remember, I think on the last one I told you I got this ruler, the 2.5 inch by 24.5 inch ruler, and it came broken. The end of it was broken. Well, this is the new one. They sent it to me. I got it within a little over a week. They were out of stock of them. And they said they were expecting stock in the next 7 to 10 days or something. Well, it came in sooner than that. They sent me an email, said, we've sent it out to you. I got it. It's here. Bingo. Excellent service. So this is why I wanted to go to that store, because I'd heard other good things about it, and they are a fairly large store. So we went in and we went through everything they had. They had not a bad selection. Prices are a little bit more than what I pay at Ultimate Sewing, but you know, this is not, I'm not turning my back on Ultimate Sewing, but Shirley herself said to me once, I felt a little guilty the first time I went to a different quilt store to buy things, and I kind of fessed up. And she said, you know, no, all the stores, everybody carries, you know, different things, for different tastes, and she is absolutely right. And this store has definitely different things from what Shirley has in her store. So I went in and I did buy some fabric, and I'll show it to you. It's a bigger store, more room to move around. Was the selection better than Ultimate Sewing? Not really. No, it wasn't. And the prices weren't better, that's for sure. But they did have some things Shirley doesn't have. They had a lot of notions in there. Shirley has a fair amount to choose from too, but this one, you know, there's space limitations. Shirley's store is very tiny. Okay, she has every inch of it with product on it. Okay, this place bigger, so they can have more. They also sold embroidery files, which come from a company that I order from online all the time, on Embroidery Online, which is OESD. That's, I think it stands for Oklahoma Embroidering and Sewing Design or something like that. Anyways, I buy a lot of designs online from them, but they had a lot of them on CD-ROM, which is old technology. Okay. In fact, it's so old technology, if you buy a new computer today, unless you specifically order it with it, they do not come with a DVD player or a CD-ROM drive on them anymore. But because people download everything. But anyways, they had a big selection there, and I did buy something in that department, and I'll show that to you in a few moments. So we got there at a good time, because there was actually only maybe one or two other people in the store when we got in there, but when we were done and came out, there was a lineup, people waiting to get in, because they were only letting so many people in at a time. So anyways, great store if you're in the Newmarket area, or if you're Canadian, well, even American, I suppose, or whatever, go to thequiltstore.ca. So I did buy some fabric, as I said. I have to stop buying Christmas fabric now. I'm starting to buy too much of it, and I'm not going to get through it all this year. But I saw these that I'm about to show you. Now this one, when you first look at it, yes, it does say Christmas, not in Christmas colors, browns, you know, fall colors, and it would work for something like in a winter project or something like that. But I really liked it, and it's got a little gold glitter to it. I don't know if it's picking it up, gold thread in there. And to go along with it, I bought this one. So I think the two will go very nicely together. And I do have a project in mind for these. I'd like to make these into table napkins. I'd have on one side this color, and I'd have this fabric on the other side. And I would do some embroidery down the corner. And depending on the style of embroidery I pick, I'll either do it on this side or I'll do it on this side. It depends on what it'll show up best on. Probably this side. So I like that, and I think I bought 2 meters of both of those. I used to buy 1 meter of fabric that I like, but I have found that's just too little. 2 meters isn't bad. 3 meters would be even better with it, but you know, costs money. And I'm sure you're saying, does he really care? Yeah, I do. It just doesn't look like I care. And then I saw these, and I got both of these as well. And again, I had napkins in mind for this, or table runners. I won't necessarily put this one with this, but both of these are neutral enough that they could be used as, you know, kind of blenders or backgrounds, that kind of thing. So I think I bought, 2 meters of those as well. I bought also 3 meters no, I only bought 2 meters of another fabric. It's a wide back fabric. I'm always on the hunt for wide back fabric because, believe it or not, the selection of wide back fabric, at least from where I'm going, is kind of limited. And I use wide back fabric, and when I say wide back fabric, I'm sure you know that means 108 inches from selvage to selvage. Which makes, you know, if you have 3 meters of that, you can pretty much back almost any quilt up to queen size in one piece. And that's what I buy it for, because I don't really enjoy piecing a backing of a quilt. I mean, that can look really nice. The only thing is, by the time I've got the whole quilt pieced, I'm done with the project. You know, I want to move on to the quilting part of it and get it finished. Also, when you are quilting, there can be problems if you've got like a pieced backing on your quilt because of all the seams, depending on how much piecing you've done. And I know that long arm quilters who quilt other people's quilts, I've heard them curse the pieced backing if they haven't been done properly and put the seams in the right direction. That can cause some havoc when they're trying to long arm them. But anyways, so I bought this white, sort of a tone on tone, but the reason I bought it is not to back a quilt with it, because I would stay away, myself, my personal opinion is I stay away from using a white or a cream or something or an ivory on the backing of a quilt. In my theory is that'll show dirt much quicker than the rest of the quilt. So, you know, that's why I don't do it more than anything. Plus, depending on how opaque the fabric is, you might see through it a little bit. You know, you see your seams from your quilt top, or that depends on the thickness of your batting, all that kind of stuff. So I just stay away from that. But the reason I bought 2 meters of it is because I like to have whites or different forms of white as fillers, as backgrounds on some quilts. I seem to go through quite a lot of those. Several times I've bought whole bolts of white that I like with a pattern on it. So I thought I'd take advantage of it because the price was pretty good too. They were charging $23.99 for a meter of wide back. I'm used to paying about $30 a meter for wide back. So that's why I got that as well. They didn't have a great selection of wide back fabric though. In fact, they only had about 3 or 4 other colors, and most of those I didn't really like anyway. So anyways, that's what I bought there. So the other thing that I bought was something that's going to be a Christmas project, and that's this Holiday Dresden appliques. Now, I do have a pattern, comes from the same company. It's not Christmas, but it's one I made a table runner out of some time ago, about a year ago. Takes a long time, but it's really nice. And I did it in grays and blacks and whites, and it's very, very elegant. It sits on my dining room table upstairs. And I was thinking of using that same design, only with Christmas fabric, to do something similar. But then I saw this. And this one's actually specifically has Christmas designs in the embroidery part of it. So it's a combination of embroidery and machine applique. So I thought, yeah, I'll pick it up. Now, these are not cheap. $49 Canadian for this. I could have got the same thing online, but it'd be in American dollars. But by the time it went through the exchange, I'd be paying about the same. So here it is. The other one you just download. This one comes on, as I said, a CD-ROM, which I had to transfer over to my USB drive for my machine. Not a big deal. But I did print out the instructions, of course, too. And here's an example of a table topper done with it. As I said, I think I'm going to go more into a table runner. So it was nice to see that they had such a collection of those. And they had a lot. And I was going through them. There were other ones there I could have bought as well. But the other thing, too, is I can get all of these things online anytime I want them as well. So, but anyways, okay. So, what else? Okay, speaking of designs, I did buy online some steampunk Christmas designs. Now, I'm I like steampunk. I am not hugely into steampunk, but I do like it. And I have some friends, a couple of ladies that are in my art journaling group that are major steampunkers as well. Like they go to things and dressed up in the steampunk garb and the whole bit. So I knew I had them in my mind for this kind of a thing. Now, I don't know if these are people that I don't give Christmas gifts or any kind of gifts to. Okay, they are sort of, they're in that thing. They're a little bit more than acquaintance. But a little less than really close friends. Although as time goes by, they're getting a little closer and closer. But anyways, I had them in mind when I bought these. And so I stitched them out I bought 4. I stitched them all out onto this one piece of cloth just to see what they'd look like. And I really like them. They're really cool. So I am thinking of making these into a table runner and matching napkins. Something a little different. Again, they might end up becoming a gift, or I'll just keep them for myself. I don't know. I mean, how many table runners does one need in their house? How many napkins does one need in their house? I am a bit of a napkin freak. We use napkins, and when I say we, I mean I, at every meal. Just the way I was brought up. Walter, on the other hand, kind of doesn't. That's not to say that he's a pig and lacks manners. It's just something that he's not used to. Well, when we go out to a restaurant, when we used to go out to a restaurant back in those days, he would of course use his napkin there. But at home, not so much. But anyways, I like napkins. So it's one of the ways that I got into sewing. Yeah, it's making napkins. Had an old serger. It was Walter's sister's, about a 30-year-old serger. Dug it out of the closet. I'd heard that you could use sergers to make napkins, so I thought I'd try and learn how to do it. And after some struggling, I did. And I made my own napkins, and I made them out of necessity because 1, buying napkins is expensive, and 2, I never could find ones that I liked either. So I made my own, and well, one thing leads to another. Here I am today. So anyways, I have those too. Another Christmassy project, again an embroidery one. I mean, Christmas lends itself to embroidery. I really think it does, because of the delicacy of the patterns and things like that. And so I bought these 2 patterns. These are ornaments, or they could be, you know, something you attach to a Christmas parcel, a gift or something like that. Make great little hostess gifts. Whatever, lots of things you can do with these. I have ones that are angels that I bought a year or so ago as well. I'm going to make some more of those these Christmas, but they're called freestanding lace. There's no fabric involved in these. It just stitches them all out. It's very intense stitching. They take a while to do, and you put them on water soluble stabilizer, and then when you've got them done, you wash that out, lay them flat to dry. Basically, water stabilizer is sort of a glue, and then when it dries, it makes them stiff. And depending on how much of it you wash out of it, you rinse out of these, makes, you know, how stiff they're going to be. And they're just fun to make, and you know, you can always use a couple of little things, you know. Not that this year this is going to happen much, but you know, you get invited over to somebody's place at Christmas for a drink or something like that. You take a bottle of wine, you put one of these around the neck of the bottle of wine. Or you've got a little, you know, hostess gift or something. They make a nice little tag or something a little extra as well. So, and they're just fun to make. And I'm all about fun in making things. Okay, so what else does that take us to? Oh yeah, speaking of freestanding lace, I don't have one to show you because it's packed away with my Christmas decorations, but I made it last year, but I'm going to make another one this year, and I'm going to make it for the neighbors. It is a freestanding lace angel, and they're really, really cute, and they're large. The one I make, it's fairly large. But they're really nice. You can use them as a tree topper. You can use them just, you know, sit them near your tree or as a decoration on, you know, a table or wherever in your house. And so I'm sort of thinking that I might make one of those for our next door neighbor for Christmas. We don't, again, these are our next door neighbors. They've lived here for now quite a few years. We speak to them. But we have never, they've never been in our house, and we've never been in their house. We've never ever invited them over for a drink or dinner or something like that. And I've often said to Walter, you know, we really should do that. They're very nice people. At Christmas over the last few years, the lady next door, she's made us some little homemade goodies, which are really nice. Now last year, in anticipation of that, and because I like to make things, I made a table runner and matching napkins, Christmas ones, and I gave that to them. And I think I may have overwhelmed them. They gave us, of course, some of their homemade goodies, but you know, it's not a competition. It's just that this is something I like to do, right? And as I said, how many table runners and napkins does one person need? So that's why I gave to them. So, you know, I hope it didn't put them on the spot, that they didn't feel like, and they didn't know that we quilted and sewed, okay? So she said, oh, now that I know that you quilt and kind of stuff, I said, if you want to quilt sometime for whatever, talk to me. I'll probably make it for them for nothing, because I just like making them, right? So, whatever. All right, so that's this freestanding angel kind of thing I was talking about. I'll show you that in a future Idiot Quilter episode once I get one of them done. Halloween haunted houses. Well, we're getting to Halloween mode right now. Not that there's going to be a Halloween this year. But, and you know, Halloween is not something that I decorate for, but this year we are. So we're making some of these. Again, another in the hoop embroidery pattern. There's actually 3 pieces to this set. This is one of them. Walter did this one. I bought this one, and I bought another version of the haunted house, which I started to do, and then I got waylaid by other things, and he got this all done. He really liked doing it. It was his first time doing something like this. So he's making the second one, and then I download it, and when I say download it, I mean I bought what's called the Haunted Mansion, and I'm working on it now. Now I'll show that to you in another episode of the Idiot Quilter. But these have a little hole in the bottom, and you can put in a tea light. I've actually got some LED lights that are run-off batteries, and it's remote control, and they change colors. And they look really cool. I bought them last year before Christmas for some elements that are done in the same way, but they were Christmas ones, gingerbread house, things like that. And you put these lights inside of them, and it looks really cool because it does show through in the fabric, and especially in these pieces that are a little lighter fabric, and it just gives a real nice glow. So my plan is that when we have all 3 of the houses done, I'm going to go out and get some, you know, fake fall foliage. That's hard to say. And maybe some little pumpkins, you know, at Michael's or Walmart or someplace like that, and do a centerpiece idea on our coffee table in our family room upstairs. And I think that'll look kind of cool, you know, for the season. And behind me, it is now finished, and I can't remember whether I had it finished in my last Idiot Quilter and showed it to you then or not, so I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but I am really pleased with this. I'll move over to the side. But that's my Halloween wall hanging. It's all done. It's all sewn together. 16 tiles in it. Each one took over 2 hours to do. I put a border on it, and I've backed it. And now we're about to hang it. In fact, yesterday we started to hang it. I found a place in my craft room that will fit this kind of thing. And because I'm also making a Christmas one in the same sort of style, and it'll be about the same size, I wanted some place where I can display it, okay, during, you know, the Christmas season, during the Halloween season, that kind of stuff, and also for future small quilts, you know, switch them out kind of a deal. So I found a space in my craft room that had some of my artwork on it, took those all down, and I bought this little system. It's a wire. It's actually now I've taken it out of the package, and I'll tell you why in a minute. On the back you can see sort of the detail of this, but essentially it's two steel tubes. The wire goes through, You put the steel tubes into your wall, and this wire goes across, and you can screw up the ends to make it taut, and then it has hooks. And the hooks have clips, and you can clip it on top of whatever you're hanging, and they hang it on along there, and there you go. And my theory for buying this was, yes, I could put up a curtain rod, but I'd have to put a sleeve on the back of everything that I want to hang in that spot. And quite frankly, putting a sleeve on a quilt, it isn't hard, but it's a pain in the butt. Plus, if you want to give that to somebody, you know, like especially as a quilt that they might use on a bed, not necessarily hang up, they've got this stupid sleeve on it. Yes, you can put in sort of basting stitches and that kind of thing, so it's temporary, and then you can tear it out if you're giving it as a gift or whatever. But I'm lazy when it comes to that kind of thing. I don't want to do that. So I was looking for some system for hanging it. Well, there are systems for hanging quilts, but they're extremely expensive and fairly involved too. Like, we're talking a couple $100. This was $14.99 on Amazon. Now, I had my doubts. I thought, oh, it seems a little cheap. Will it be strong enough? Actually, it would be strong enough. But here's the problem. So, there's two ways to mount it. Ideally, you want to screw the end pieces into a joist, okay, into a stud on your wall. But the wall I'm putting it on, the studs weren't conveniently located far enough apart where it would make this feasible. So the second method is to use like little things, drywall mount things. I don't know what you call them. But you know, you drill a hole, you put them in, then you can screw into them, and they kind of expand, and they're supposed to take the weight. They're supposed to, they didn't. The tension on the wire of this thing, when you pull it across, started to pull them out of the wall. So there we have a hole. Actually, a couple of holes. So then we just tried the joist method. Well, yeah, we had one that we could go into, but another one was not in a very convenient spot. So that wasn't going to work. So then Walter found a couple of small curtain rods that I could have got the hooks over, but I have to bend the hooks out to hang it up, and no, not right. So Walter filled in the holes, and today, later on, whenever he gets out of bed, you know, it's 9:34 in the morning when I'm doing this, he's still in bed. He won't be out of bed until about 11:30 or so. So maybe this afternoon we'll go out and look and hunt for something else that's going to work. And what I'm looking for is basically a rod, like a curtain rod, that I can put those hooks or some kind of hook thing. And I've seen these, but we went looking a couple of weeks ago. And do you think then, where we were looking, we could find what I've seen before? And I can't find them online. You know, basically I just want hooks that go over the rod and that will clamp onto the top of your quilt. All right? Am I asking for too much? It seems to be. Every time I get an idea that seems very simple, it becomes very complicated. Like this. So we'll go out and look and see what we can find. We'll get something, we'll make it worse, or work. In worst case scenario, I will put a bloody sleeve on this thing. Not such, on this it wouldn't matter so much because this is not meant to go on a bed. It's meant to be hung, so there you go. But I still want to avoid that if I can. So we'll see what we find. Okay, so yeah, that's about, oh, one other little project. When I was in the quilt store, I saw this panel and I thought that was so bloody cute. So I'm not a big fan of panels, although lately I've been getting several panels. You saw my gnome one that I haven't done anything with yet, but I have plans for it for my front door. This might go on, I have double front doors. This might go on the other door. I'll have to see what it turns out to be in size. It's 37 inches width of fabric. Okay, 37 inches might be wider than my door. In fact, I think it is. So this is going to become a wall hanging. Oh, here we go. Where am I going to hang it? I'll worry about that after the fact. So I may put a couple of simple borders on this and then just do some probably walking foot quilting on it. Just, you know, wavy lines kind of a thing. because you know me and wavy lines. I love them. Well, it's not that I love them so much. It's just that they're easy to do. So we'll see. Then again, it may never get out of the package. Oh yeah, and one other thing that I bought from the quilt store is I'm always on the lookout for marking tools that, one, I don't necessarily have to wash out. It would be nice if I could just put an iron to them and take them out that way. And that's the friction pens. I have some of those, but they can sometimes leave shadows on your quilt. You have to be careful. And that's with any marking tool, you have to be careful. You have to test it first. So I saw this, and this is multicolored marking pencils. They just come out the bottom, just like that. And you see, remember those pens? I don't know if they still have them, but as a kid, you had about 4 colors in a pen, and you turned the top around to the next color and pressed it out. Well, that's how this works. Same idea. I think it's got 6 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 colors in it. And I haven't tried it on fabric yet. Supposedly this, you can sponge it out, you know, wet it and sponge it out, or wash the quilt or whatever. And we'll see how it works. So it wasn't that expensive, 11 bucks. So we'll try it. I have a wide collection of marking tools, I can tell you that. Okay, already talked about the replacement ruler from them as well. So let's move on. We've been talking about embroidery. So let's talk about organizing things. I have a lot of embroidery files. I collect those like I collect fabric. And they go on USB drives, but I back them up to several computers. Actually, I have them grandparented as well. And yeah, I'm a bit of a fanatic on that kind of thing. But I'm starting to work on these Christmas projects, and my files, they're organized, but not organized that well. So I thought what I'll do is I'm going to go through all of my embroidery files. I'm going to isolate anything that has to do with Christmas, and I'm going to put them all on one USB drive and mark it Christmas. And that's the one I can shove into my sewing machine, and there they all are. And I also want to print out the instructions and pictures of them all. So I spent about half a day doing that, a little bit more than half a day. It became a fairly involved process for some reason. And I created a binder that has pictures of all of those designs, and if there are instructions as to what to do with them, then they're all in that binder too, and the binder is marked Christmas, and now I have them all in one spot. So I'm very proud of that. I need to do that with Halloween. I need to do that with other holidays too, but right now I'm not, but I will at some point in time. So, you know, it's just a way to keep myself organized when I'm doing all these kind of things, and I'm all about organization. Always have been. A little OCD about that at times. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about another fear I have. Now, you know, I have a quilt top that's a Christmas quilt. It's got that Christmas tree on it. Turned out really nice. Now it's time to quilt it. Well, I keep saying that, and I keep finding other things to do before I quilt it. And I have decided I am going to do ruler foot quilting on it. And so I ordered these ruler foot templates from a place online. Actually, I got them on Amazon, but they actually come from another store called So Steady. Yeah, So Steady. I think that's what it's called. And there's 6 of these templates in here. You probably can't see them very well. Let me hold up a piece of paper. So we have those 2. There's another one. This fun looking one. And this. Now, they did a whole tutorial on YouTube on how to use a couple of these. I think they were focusing on this one. And I thought it was kind of neat, and it seemed fairly straightforward. So I went looking for these, and they were on Amazon, amazon.ca, and they were on Prime, so I got them in no time flat. And I have experimented with this one. This is the one I've decided to use. Now, what that pattern will turn out to be, let me just grab it here. I drew it out first. So this is the pattern. And this pattern will fit on an 8-inch square. And on my Christmas tree quilt, basically I have 8-inch squares on it. They're actually smaller squares, but they make an 8-inch block. And I can use where the block joins as my positioning guide. That's my theory. Okay, so I did a little practice on a practice sandwich, and yeah, I had to get used to how to do this, but I think I can do it. I tend to be a perfectionist, and that's why I keep procrastinating about getting to this. But as Walter has said, and okay, sorry about that. My camera just decided to say that its storage was full and it cut me off. So I've fixed the problem. Continuing on. What was I talking about? Doing the ruler foot quilting. And as I said, I tend to procrastinate because I tend to be a perfectionist about things. And everybody is saying the only way you're going to learn how to do this kind of quilting and that is just to plunge right in and practice, practice, practice. And yeah, you do it, you know the mistakes. Other people looking at it on a whole quilt probably won't find your mistakes. So I'm going to do it, but I've got to do my Haunted Mansion first. Then I'm going to do this. I am going to do it, and I figured that'll be next week. And I have to lay it all out and get it layered, that quilt. So I bought a pool noodle. You know, those long things, you can buy them everywhere. And I saw a video where a lady, she says you had a confined space. She uses this when she layers her quilts. She puts down her fabric and everything like that, and she rolls it onto the pool noodle as she's basting it down. I use spray basting with it. And that looked like a fairly good system to me. So I might give that a try and see how that works out. And of course, when I quilt it, my new method that I already did a video back a few weeks ago and showed you that. I have these tables all set up in my rec room. I put my sewing machine out there too, and I can spread the whole quilt across all of these tables. Now that means that once I've done that, set that up, I'm committed, because that can't sit up there for weeks on end. So once it's up, I have to finish the project. No matter how long it takes. So it's kind of incentive too to get it done. So that's probably next week's agenda if I get this Haunted Mansion thing done. And it's got about 20 pieces on it, and I've done 6 so far. And they take a while, each one. So not as long as that thing, but a while. Okay, so we'll see how that goes with the walking, or with the ruler foot quilting. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about bobbins, pre-wound bobbins. Okay, I don't wind my own bobbins. I have, but usually the color I have in my bobbin is white. I use white for pretty much everything, even in embroidery. And many of the designs, like this design, it calls for you're supposed to use black thread and a black bobbin in there. I don't. I think Walter did, but I don't. I use white because I'm lazy to wind the bobbin, for one thing. And the other thing is, it doesn't show up. You don't see it. So I don't get too worried about that. If I was a purist, I probably should get worried about it, but I'm not. So anyways, works for me. I have been using for quite a while Wonderfil's Deco Bobs. They come in packages like this, and they're great. I have had very few problems with these, although I did have a package that for some reason they just wouldn't come off the spool. They were wound way too tight, and I took them back to Ultimate Sewing, and Shirley checked out and she says, yep, that's a defective package, and she just gave me a new package. Great service. And so I have these sort of stockpiled. But you know that I use Monfil, monfil.ca, and I've sung the praises of that site as well, Canadian company. They have packages of pre-wound bobbins that come like this, and there is 144 of them in a package. And they're great. I've had absolutely no problems with these bobbins. They have as much on them as these bobbins do. And that's the other thing about pre-wound bobbins. Usually you have more thread on them than if you wind them yourself. Plus the tension is even on them as well. It's another reason why I use them. However, I have had less problems with the Monfill ones than I've had with the Deco Bobs. Now, I use these for both regular sewing and for embroidery. You go through a lot of bobbins when you're doing embroidery. So economically, these are your better buy. Package of these runs around $13 to $15 for 12. A package of these is $23.99 for 144, a gross lot. Okay? And right now, I just double checked the price on them today online, and they're having a sale. $19.99 for 144 pre-wound white bobbins, class 15. Okay? These are for domestic sewing machines that take class 15 bobbins, which is most Genomes, not for long arm machines, although they do sell bobbins, pre-wound bobbins, for long arm machines as well. So really, price-wise, much better deal, than these. Both work well. These are the ones I prefer, both for price and for consistency. As I said, I've had some problems with the Wonderfill Deco Bobbins. So that was just my little comparison of those two. And that site, again, if you're interested, is called Monfill, which is French for thread, MONFIL.ca. And the prices I'm quoting you for everything are always in Canadian dollars because I'm Canadian. And they do ship to the United States. I'm not sure. Their shipping rate is fairly good. It's a flat rate unless you have over $100 worth of stuff ordered from them, and then it's free shipping, at least in Canada. I'm not sure if it's free shipping to the US or not. I think it is. But still, their shipping is pretty good and pretty fast, I have found anyways, at least here in Canada. Now, I live in Ontario. They're in Quebec, province next door, kind of a thing. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is not so much specific to quilting or sewing. It's about gift giving. You've heard me talking about I'm making these things as potential gifts and things like that. We don't give gifts in my family at Christmas, because anytime anybody needs anything, they buy it for themselves. Yeah, I'll get something for my mother, of course, because she's in a nursing home and that kind of thing. But even that is limited to what to get her. I like giving gifts, always have. But the problem is, you give a gift to somebody and they sometimes feel obligated to give you something in return. Now, that's not why I give people gifts. I'm not looking for something in return. But I know if somebody gives me a gift unexpectedly, I feel that I need to return the favor as well. So I was talking about the neighbors and, giving them something at Christmas. I don't want them to feel obligated or in competition, okay? So you don't want people to feel obligated to give you something in return. So what's the etiquette? How do you do it? I want to give them something. Actually, the reason I want to give them something is because I'm making these things and I got to give them to somebody because what do I need them for? Kind of a thing. I just like making them. So how do you give a gift to somebody so that they don't feel obligated and they don't feel guilty if they don't give you something back in return? Yeah, you can say, I'm not expecting you to give me anything in return. I mean, maybe the best method is just to explain to them, look, I love making these things. I don't need them. I thought you might enjoy it because it just gives me pleasure making them, kind of a thing. Maybe that is the way to go. I don't know. But if you have suggestions on how to give a gift without making somebody feel obligated to return the favor, I'd like to know what your method is on that. Yeah. So, okay, anything else to tell you? No, I think we've gone on long enough. I am sure you think that too. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Idiot Quilter. There'll be more coming up in the weeks ahead, more projects to share with you, more ideas, and I do enjoy your comments, your questions. Do remember I'm not an expert, okay? I've had a few people ask me some questions as though I'm a sewing machine expert, and I'm not. All I can share with you is what I know from my own experiences, and it's my opinion, really, based on my experiences. So anyways, but I do love your comments and things like that. So thanks for tuning in. Have a really great week. Get in there, get working on whatever hobby you have, because that's what will get us through this period of isolation. So enjoy. Bye bye for now.